Hello friends, welcome to this presentation on Uranus. After the presentation on Neptune, it was almost natural for me to take up the other outer planet Uranus, and perhaps possibly in the future a presentation on Pluto also is forthcoming. Now, you know, uh, basically why study Uranus really? Because uh, I mean the reason is the same as for Neptune, because these higher planets, these outermost planets, are seldom studied in traditional Hindu or Vedic astrology. Although we have these planetary settings, or we know the exact planetary coordinates in the birth chart, and in Western astrology, these planets have been extensively studied. Um, and also, in if one were to integrate and one were to look at modern astrology in a more holistic way, and particularly as it is relevant to medical astrology, I think it is important to look at these planets and see what they uncover. Uh, before we begin, let me just say that studying these planets or researching these planets is almost like a metaphysical, a kind of philosophical activity wherein we are focusing on the essential properties, the first principles of how the planet expresses its energies or powers. When I refer to planet, I mean also graha, which is synonymous with planet in Western astrology. Okay, so uh, we will be looking at those aspects in detail, and then you know it's always better to go from the subtle to the gross rather than from the gross to the subtle. Okay, that way we'll be able to concretize our conclusions better. With this brief background, let me proceed now to the sort of a general astrological exploration of Uranus. Um, and we will then at a later stage in the presentation relate this to medical astrology, because that's where the primary interest of this presentation lies. Okay, so let's look at Uranus. Now the word Uranus is from the is from the Greek Oranos. So typically, when you look at these, when you look at the outer planets like Neptune, you find Neptunus is a Roman name which has been derived from the original Greek. Now, in case of Uranus, Oranos is actually a Greek name. Oranos means Lord of the skies or Lord of the rain. So, in a sense, it is somewhere seems similar to Neptune, but it is not the case. Now, there are mythological references, to basically how the name has been derived. Okay, so we'll look at that now. Uh, See, the Greek Oranos comes from the Proto-Greek Vuranos. So Proto-Greek was a language which preceded Greek language, and uh, it comes also, the root is Vur, it's like Versa. So Vuranos, if one were to look at it from the Lithuanian root, it is Versa. And this is actually a Proto-Indo-European root. So if anybody familiar with etymology will understand that Proto-Indo-European uh, roots gave rise to the Indo-Sanskritic root, for example. So the Sanskrit verb root varshati is linked to this. So therefore, Uranos or Uranus, as it was later called, is that which rains. So it's the rain god in a sense. It's the god of the skies, the rain god, and uh, you find that there is a reference to Uranus being born out of the relationship of Gaia. Gaia is the fertile earth. So the earth principle, if earth was represented as a goddess in ancient Greek mythology. So Gaia basically, uh, you know, um Gaia and ether. Now ether is the fifth element in the Panchamahabhut. Okay, we call it the Akash Tattva, for example, and we know that Jupiter rules over the Akash Tattva traditionally. But here, typically, therefore, we also see the connection of Jupiter and Uranus actually much later. So ether and Gaia mated, and the progeny was Oranos. Okay, so therefore that is one reference to Oranos, and basically Oranos. So in a way, Oranos is the son of Gaia, But then Ouranos and Gaia also had an incestuous relationship, and they had multiple progeny as per Greek mythology. And one of the progeny was Kronos. Kronos is also later on referred to as Saturn in astrology. So therefore Saturn is connected to Uranus as the child or the progeny of Uranus. Now, so this is a reference which is from the, let's say, from the Greek. Now, Uranus is also referred in the in the Vedic and the Puranic literature as Aruna, charioteer of the sun. So obviously, the sun being the active principle, the sun being the giver of life, the sun being the ultimate logos, and Aruna as the charioteer of the sun. So you see that uh, that has been acknowledged in the ancient scriptures. Also, there is a reference in the Mahabharata in which basically Vyas is talking to Dhritarashtra, and he's saying that the three planets, he calls them Shweta, Shyama, and Tikshna, are basically are close to the constellation of Chitra. He is talking about that at the time of the Mahabharata. Okay, so now typically Shweta, the word Sanskrit word Shweta refers to the greenish white color. Okay, and that, or Shweta, or it was also called as Mahapata. Mahapata is the one with the large orbit. So Karana refers to a planet Mahapata. So Shweta or Mahapata basically refer here to Uranus. Sham, Sham is bluish, dark. That is Neptune, and Tikshna or Tivra is basically a reference to Pluto. So we see the reference in the Mahabharata. So therefore, you see that these are really ancient, um, well-known phenomena, and then there has been this sort of a divide over a period of time that this is not part of our tradition, this is a part of the other tradition. Okay, now, so having said this, let us now talk about a little bit about the modern Uranus as we understand it. Let's say our understanding of Uranus. Now, Uranus was basically discovered, or should we say rediscovered, by a astronomer called Herschel. This was on the 13th of March 1781. Now, incidentally, you will know that sidereal or Vedic, as per the Vedic system, the sidereal sun is in Aquarius from 15th of February to 15th of March. So basically, when the sun was in Aquarius, that is the time when Uranus was discovered. Okay, that time, at the time of its discovery, Uranus was in Gemini. Okay, uh, and basically now let us try to understand, the dignity, the detriment, the exaltation, and the debilitation signs of Uranus. Now, typically for outer planets, these are not really studied, but there is a reference to these, in certain textbooks, in certain publications, particularly in Western astrology, and therefore they need to be respected and they need to be connected to traditional Vedic nakshatra considerations. Okay, so if you look at dignity or own house, now basically Uranus is in its own house in Aquarius. Now we've heard of the Aquarian age, the Aquarian children, all that. Now, um, Aquarius is also the Mula Trikona sign of Saturn, if you will recollect. Now, Saturn and Uranus are certainly have affinity because Saturn is Uranus's son, as you know. Okay, so that is one, that could be one factor for sure. And again, Uranus is very close to Neptune in terms of its functionality. We'll come to that a little later, particularly in medical astrology. And we realize that Neptune or Varuna is the Vedic deity of the nakshatra Shatabhishak. Okay, so and then of course after immediately after uh, Shatabhishak, which is basically ruled by Rahu planet, comes the nakshatra Purva Bhadrapada, which is ruled by Jupiter. So Jupiter, and Rahu, and that too in a Saturnine sign. So that's a place where Uranus will likely do well because it will dispense higher justice uh, much more effectively. Okay, so that's one understanding of the dignity of Uranus. Now let's look at the detriment, the other opposite side. It's in Leo. Okay, so that does not need much explanation because we will focus on the dignity part more. Then let's look at the exaltation part. Now, exaltation of Uranus is in Scorpio traditionally. Now, this is very interesting. Couple of observations. Scorpio is a watery sign, and Uranus is certainly a rain god or lord of the skies. So, somewhere that could be one kind of a correlation. Now, the important nakshatra which is embedded in Scorpio or in Vrishchik is Anuradha. Fully embedded in Anuradha is in Scorpio. Anuradha rulership is Saturn, correct? And and Anuradha, the Vedic deity is Mitra. Now, Mitra and Varuna, or even Mitra and Aruna for that matter here, which is Uranus. So they are all very deeply connected to each other. So it is said that what Varuna conceals in the night, Mitra brings to light during the day. So Mitra is basically an active principle of the sun god or the solar logos. Okay, so therefore, again remember Aruna, charioteer of the sun. So therefore, no wonder perhaps that Uranus is exalted in Scorpio. Okay, so this is about Anuradha, and then of course Jeshta. Now the next nakshatra Jeshta rulership is Mercury. Okay, and the Vedic deity is Indra. Remember. Now this is interesting because we will later on find out that Uranus has a particular affinity with Mercury because the mercurial symptoms in medical astrology are nervous or nerve related kind of a symptoms, whereas the Uranian symptoms is spasmodic. Okay, so creating spasms. So therefore, it is connected to Mercury. So no wonder again in Scorpio, it will be in good company. Again, Indra, the deity, has a thunderbolt. Remember, and Indra again strikes from the sky. So there is this affinity of the Vedic Indra with Harsha, with Uranus or with Arun. Okay. Now another name for Uranus in the Vedic literature or in the astrological literature is Prajapati. Okay. Now this is interesting because now we are looking at the debilitation part of Uranus. Uranus is traditionally debilitated in Taurus. It is exactly 180 degrees from Scorpio. Now, could we explain this how and why? Now, typically, the main nakshatra of Taurus, the nakshatra which is fully encased inside Taurus, is Rohini. Now, Rohini nakshatra, the nakshatra deity is Prajapati. Remember? And the nakshatra Swami or the nakshatra Lord is Moon. Okay, so and remember that Prajapati basically developed lust for his own daughter Rohini, which basically ran and became the Mruga or the antelope in the next nakshatra, which is Mrugashirsha, which was then decapitated by a arrow shot from the next nakshatra, which is Ardra, which is the star Sirius, which is Rudra as the Vedic deity. So you see that Prajapati is uncertain here. He is not in his best form, one could say that. And Prajapati being Uranus, therefore is debilitated. Okay, so that is one sort of explanation and preliminary nakshatra considerations. Now, couple of things. The color, as I already mentioned, of Uranus is traditionally pale greenish white color. Okay, the element platinum, okay, is in fact almost sometimes considered more precious than gold also, and has zero sort of a reactivity. So the element platinum is under the lordship of Uranus. Okay, the nature of Uranus we will discuss in great detail later, and I will be also talking about the symbol explanation in the very next slide. Okay, now before I go further, let me just simply say, and I will not spend a lot of time on this because I want to focus more on the core metaphysical, physical, spiritual, psychic properties of Uranus and as they apply to medical astrology. So I will not be spending a lot of time on this, but there is a lot of relevance of Uranus in mundane astrology. So when you see a lot of upheavals, political upheavals, revolutions, major earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, all that could be somewhere linked to basically the transit of Uranus. You might recollect some time ago, some years ago, there was a Uranus-Pluto conjunction, which also was quite damaging. Okay, so with this brief explanation, now let me just go to the core of it. Let me explain to you the symbol of Uranus, because that's where we will find a lot of insights in terms of how it really acts. So next slide. So here you see the symbol of Uranus is in front of you. It's basically like a H-shaped symbol in a way. But let me explain to you it in a different way. There is a central cross. Okay, so there is a vertical line, and then there's a horizontal, and it crosses the horizontal line. Now, a cross is typically a depiction of the spirit descending into matter. It's a depiction of, typically when in Christians you have, you know, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. So it's the Father up there, the Heavenly Father descending into, in the form of spirit, into the Son or the body. So this is basically the spirit descending into matter. The cross stands for that. Now below the cross, you will see a circle which is basically Earth. Okay, and that circle is Earth, and uh, and that is Gaia in a way. Okay, it's now remember it's just a circle. It doesn't have a center point. If there was a center point, then it would be something else. It would be Sun. So this is Earth or Gaia, and you find that Gaia is Earth, personified as a goddess in Greek mythology, as I already mentioned, and you find that the cross is atop Gaia. So in a sense, the spirit descending into matter and seeding Gaia. So that is corroborative of the mythology that we already now heard. So this is the second part. So this is very important. So this is the higher and the lower. This is the spiritual plane descending into the material plane, represented by the earth. And then on the sides you see the receiving kind of a channels. You see something like, like almost like phalanges which are open, which are like radars. So these are basically receiving the higher vibration. This is the ether. So in a sense, this is a symbol of Uranus, quite unique in a way, and rather telling. Okay, so with this, I want to now speak of something which is very close to me in terms of the understanding of Uranus and its implications for medical astrology. Now, Uranus stands for, in the body, it stands for the pineal gland. Okay, so I'm going to be just showing you this slide, and I'm going to be little going further ahead, and I'll come back to this slide once again. But you can have a quick look at this slide. I've just said that the pituitary pineal axis is equivalent to the Uranus Neptune. So pituitary stands for the Uranus and pineal gland stands for Neptune. But I will not spend more time on this slide. As I said, we will go further, and I intend to, before going and explaining the slide in detail, I intend to basically cover the planetary or the graha properties of Uranus. If we understand the quality, the guna dharma, as it were, the attributes of the planet and how it affects us, or how it affects humanity at large, we'll be able to then correlate it and apply it to even medical astrology. So now with this, typically we are looking at the planetary or the graha properties of Uranus. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is that, as we already said, that this is the aspect of spirit descending into matter. So there is the aspect of the psychic and the spiritual. Now, when you look at the human body, you see the pituitary gland. I already showed you the slide earlier. The pituitary gland is like a master gland in the body. It controls the entire hormonal uh, endocrine system of the body. So it's what is called as the neuroendocrine apex point. So if the pituitary gland malfunctions, then practically every single thing in the body malfunctions. The growth of the body will malfunction. The blood pressure will be going crazy. There will be infertility issues. So many different issues will be there. There will be issues with metabolism, with thyroid, with so many different glands. Okay, so there is a pituitary connection. Again, the hormones are almost like invisible. They don't appear like organs. They are they will be secreted from certain endocrine glands, and they will permeate in the body through the blood. Now, uh, in front of you, you can see I have already spoken of this. Now, the endocrine glands in general and their secretions, the hormones, come under the lordship or come under the dominion of Venus. And since pituitary gland is the master gland which actually uh, controls the hormonal secretion, therefore Uranus can be looked upon as a higher octave of Venus. Okay, so that's a point. The second point here is that, so how does it act? It collaborates a lot with other planets. When it acts on us, whether on our bodies or on our minds, or on our destinies, it will collaborate with other planets. So if it collaborates with Venus, then you could perhaps find more medical astrological effects. You could find certain refinement of the Venusian traits. If there is an artist, then you could find a higher level of artistry, unconventional, bohemian, eccentric kind of art. Maybe a Picasso, for example, had a Venus Uranus collaboration. Then, if you look at Saturn, now remember Saturn is the progeny of Uranus. So Saturn is kind of, Uranus has a close affinity with Saturn. So Saturn is basically the Karmadhipati. It is the deliverer of karma, and Uranus can be really swift in delivery of karma. Uranus stands for suddenness, for abruptness, for explosive changes, okay, to status quo. And if they are delivered through the receptacle of karma, what better conjunction can there be? Although I must say that this conjunction perhaps is certainly not pleasant for humanity. Then look at collaboration with other planets such as Mercury. Now, as I said, Mercury stands for the neural principle, or basically the nervous system is under the lordship of Mercury. Uranus, again, is basically uh, has the spasmodic kind of a quality to it. So therefore, Mercury and Uranus would give colic spasms and things like that. And we'll again visit these concepts with Sun. Again, Uranus and Sun both, there will be a malefic effect. So with Mars, there could be accidents, things like that. Okay, so um, with Rahu, uh, there could be basically, if it is associated, since these are lunar nodes, so there could be certain association with the mind here. It could be insanity, hysteria, things like that. Okay, with Jupiter there could be sudden unknown cancers which grow from nowhere, as if and then maybe even fanatic cults could, for example, have a Jupiter Uranus connection. Now, the quality which I have been mentioning other already, now I will just, it is there in front of you, is the spasmodic quality of Uranus. So Uranus has this quality of spasmodicity. It is sudden, it is gut wrenching, it is painful, but in a spasmodic way. Now, when I'm talking of this, it is not just at the physical level. It could be at the emotional level. It could be at the mental level. It could be at the spiritual level. It could be at the level of destiny or level of career progression. For example, it is unconventional. Uranus is very unconventional. It is non-conformist. It will not conform to any ideal. It will not do what everybody else is doing. It will try to strike its own path. People may be shocked, but Uranus, a Uranian personality, doesn't care. It is bohemian. Bohemian means eccentric, colorful. Okay, in a sense. So these are all qualities. So even whether it's a tissue which is bohemian or eccentric in terms of how it grows, or whether it's an organ, or whether it's a bone which gets fractured suddenly out of no reason, or whether it's an accident which happens or whether it's a sudden normal man becoming insane, you know, things like that. So when I'm looking at these qualities, these are at multiple dimensions, okay, right from the spiritual, psychic, emotional, physical, and mundane. Now, Uranus is a awakener, right? So, I mean, it is also called the awakener. It's an innovator. It will compulsively innovate. So, in terms of whenever important transits of Uranus have happened, you will find a lot of, like for example, the whole telecommunication industry basically got a fillip or really came into existence and really became established when Uranus was in Aquarius. Okay, this is about like now at this time Uranus is in towards the end of Aries, okay, and Uranus remains in a sign for 7 years. Now, when I say Uranus is towards the end of Aries, I remember I am using the sidereal zodiac, okay. So, based on this, if you go back, you will realize that since Uranus spent 7 years in a sign, roughly about 14 years ago, or about 21 years ago, it entered Aquarius, and for 7 years it remained there. So if you look back 21 years, typically that was the year 2000. That was a time when basically internet took over the world, you know, in a big way. So internet, telecommunication, mobile phones, all that. Correct. So it's a innovator, it's a rebeller, liberator, it's revolutionary. Okay, and therefore, as I said, it is connected to technology, internet, telecommunications, atomic space technology. All these will come under. In the future, you have artificial intelligence, you have human and machine interfaces. All this will be basically under the qualities of Uranus. Okay, so this is a very important slide in terms of understanding the properties. With this, we are in a position to actually um go towards the medical astrology part of Uranus in a much deeper way. I have covered a lot of ground already, I think. Okay, but before we proceed further, this is the important disclaimer I want to show you. I am a medical allopathic doctor and I have complete faith in the efficacy of modern medicine in the treatment of disease. However, I do understand that and I do believe that humanity will be greatly enriched by the knowledge of Jyotish as it is understood, taught, transmitted through Vedic and post Vedic scriptures. And also, uh, Western astrology has greatly enriched our understanding of uh, astrology or how planets affect us, and particularly in their rather enriching interpretation of the outer planets. So I think that uh, we have to do an integrative blending and of various traditions to understand medical astrology better, and we this could perhaps provide some kind of a perspective for healthcare professionals. Okay, so this is a disclaimer, right? With this, um, I will now dive into the medical astrological facets of Uranus. Okay, now this is interesting. Now, before I go here, the first point here in this is the affectation of the pituitary gland. Now, the pituitary gland comes under the dominion of Uranus, and the pineal gland comes under the dominion of basically Neptune. So, let me just explain to you exactly. Let me go back to that particular image of the brain. Now, this is a cross section of the brain. Okay, this is like the brain split. This is what we call the sagittal section. That means what you see here is the right hemisphere of the brain from the inner side. Imagine that this side there would be a similar left hemisphere which can cover this. So this is like the what you can see here is actually um, how the center of the brain kind of looks like. Okay. Now here, if you notice, there is a pituitary gland. Don't please disregard the other labels. Just look at the pituitary. The pituitary gland is like a small outpouching coming down, like a small bundle, like a small um, almost like a small bag which is hanging there. You see that? Yes. Now, this is called the pituitary gland. Now, this is the master gland of the body in terms of controlling all the endocrine glands, all the hormones of the body. So, in other words, if there is no pituitary gland, human beings cannot survive. Okay, and I'm coming to that a little later. Now, the area above the pituitary gland, if you see, there is this whole area, and then behind it there is a pineal gland. If you see, there is another label, pineal gland. It is on the diagonally opposite side. Okay, it's the pineal. Now, the pineal gland uh, is responsible for um, biological rhythms. It is responsible for sleep patterns. It is also the place and the location where Neptune has an effect. So Neptune affects us through the pineal gland, and Uranus affects us through the pituitary gland. So basically, this is how Neptune and Uranus collaborate. Now, in the center is a area which is called the third ventricle, in which there is cerebrospinal fluid. So what you see actually is that both of these are in the same cavity. One is behind, which is the pineal. One is ahead and below, which is the pituitary gland, and both are actually collaborating with each other. Now, uh, so this is basically the thing. Now, coming back to the slide. Now, the pituitary gland secretes certain hormones. Like it secretes something. So the pituitary gland will secrete something called the growth hormone. Okay, it also secretes a hormone which influences the secretion of adrenaline and noradrenaline from the suprarenal glands. It's called adrenocorticotropic hormone. Then it secretes another hormone which is very useful for uh, basically reproduction, for in basically which stimulates the ovaries in women. Okay, so all of this form are under the pituitary gland, and the pituitary gland has some sort of a connection with the Uranus planet. So if there is a Uranus, if there is some major disturbance in endocrine, this thing, one should certainly look at the Uranus as far as medical astrology is concerned. Now, coming to the next thing, which is the pineal gland. The pineal gland and the pituitary, if there is a disturbance, one could have spiritual affectations, hysterical kind of a thing. People who you find sometimes who are who suddenly who are borderline insane sometimes and all that. This could be a very deep rooted kind of a malady affecting the Neptune and the Uranus together. Okay, so this is something which I want to talk about. Okay, because uh, during deep meditation, it is the pineal gland which lights up. Actually, the area just above the pineal gland is the area which actually lights up during deep meditation. So, therefore, this is what it could mean. Now, the next thing here is that the ether element. Now, the eyes also come under the, typically we know that eyes are influenced by Venus. Venus is the karaka for the eyes. We know that. Again, as I said here, Uranus is a higher octave of Venus, and eyes again are the ether element. So eyes also could be one of the, now important to notice, these are not very definitive kind of a indication. These are indicative in terms of a general astrological exploration. Okay, and kindly refer to my disclaimer earlier. Um, as I already mentioned that in medical astrology, Uranus will act in collaboration with other planets. We also spoke of the spasmodic quality. So a spasmodic quality would, what it would mean in muscles, it could be cramps. In abdomen, it could be spasm in intestine or in stomach. It could be twitching of fingers or twitching of limbs. It could be convulsions in the nervous system. It could be if your eye is continuously, let's say, blinking without control, which is called nystagmus. So spasmodic quality generally is covered under Uranus. If somebody has some disorder which is chronic, persistent, and spasmodic in nature, then if one were to look at medical astrological perspective, one should certainly look for Uranus and its position. Uh, there is also aspect of suddenness with Uranus. So anything which is explosive, okay, anything which is abrupt, accidental, something which is unprecedented, you know, like a person just falls on the ground and finds that he has got a severe pot fracture of the ankle and legs and all that. So something very explosive, or a bomb blast kind of a situation, okay, or these kind of things also form the suddenness part of it is basically Uranus. Uranus is also called the electric planet. So electricity, lightning strikes, electric shocks, they are concerned. Also, what is traditionally called sexual perversion or deviant behavior also might have to do with Uranus, particularly Uranus in the fifth house or such positions. And uh, see, we know now more and more cases in which neural chips are embedded in human beings. That in the future, even organs could be transplanted in real human beings. So you're looking at more like a human body, a fusion of organic human organs and maybe synthetic organs which are made up of chips or silicon or electronic devices. So this kind of human machine interface, like development of androids kind of a situation, for example, all these things in the future, these kind of technological developments will certainly come under the ambit, at least in terms of the outer planet Uranus. Okay, so this is my brief exploration into the various facets of Uranus. I hope you like it. Since we have understood and we have determined that the word Uranus comes from the Greek Uranos, I just thought that it might be appropriate to end this presentation with a quotation from a famous Greek poet. I'm sure you know Homer and his epic poem Iliad, and this is what he says in that. Of course, it's translated from the Greek. A wise physician skilled our wounds to heal is more than armies for the common weal. Common weal means common people. Okay, so with this, uh, I thank you for your interest. Please like, share, and subscribe. Bye.